Hey everybody, welcome to Money's No Object. I'm your host, Dylan Howell. This is episode number 363 of our YouTube channel and podcast, and I could not be more excited to continue sharing with you guys personal finance topics that I think could be useful for you in your long-term financial journey. Today, we are going to be talking about delayed gratification, and specifically, I want to talk about why it's so important for us to not just consume everything now. I want to talk about why it is so important that we put money away for our future. And I want to talk about why living on less than you make is vital to our financial success, even though some may argue that it isn't. I promise you that it is, and I'll give you evidence to that fact today. And I will walk you through why some of the things that I teach, and basically all the things that I teach, are congruent with the idea of delaying gratification and putting off something today in order to gain something even better later on. So stick around for a discussion of all that and more in today's episode. Before we get started though, if you could go down below, hit the big red subscribe button, like this video, leave me any feedback in the comments down below, and I'll be sure to respond to anything you leave down there. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify podcasts, be sure to subscribe and leave me a review on either one of those platforms. Follow me on social media at MNO with Dylan, and that's really good supplemental materials to all the things I'm putting out in these long form episodes on YouTube and the podcast every single day. And then if you need somebody to help you to build a financial plan and keep you accountable to that plan over the long term, then I can do that. Just DM me on any of the major social media sites and tell me that you are interested in financial coaching sessions. And you and I can begin working together, pushing towards your long-term financial goals, and then ultimately pushing you on towards long-term financial freedom, which is what I hope for every single individual who's watching or listening to this show on a day-to-day basis. Now look, I, as much as you, as much as anyone else, likes nice things, right? And I like things that sometimes can be a little expensive, right? But expensive things aren't always the things that are going to make us happy. Nice things, nice physical possessions are not always going to be the things, that really get us going and really get us happy and really get us enjoying life, right? But ultimately, there are things that we all want, and there are things that we aspire to have. And want is a really big word, right? Because want is juxtaposed by the idea of a need. And wants and needs are totally different sides of the spectrum, right? A need is something that must be had. It's something that without it, you can't live life in a normal way. You can't do the things that you are supposed to do in your life. You need this thing. You need this, particular set of circumstances. You need whatever it may be, right? We need water. We need food, right? But what do you want, right? You want sparkling water. You want, filet mignon. But you don't need those things, right? And really the same goes with the way that we handle our finances, the way that we manage our money. There are tons of things that we want. And very often we put these wants above our needs, and we put these wants in the place that they should not be. Because very simply put, we want to put the future today. Right? We want to put what we could save up for and could pay for in cash. We want to make that thing happen today. And typically, how do we do that? Typically, we do it via debt. But sometimes we're not just talking about debt. We're talking about what we call an opportunity cost decision. So I really want to lead off with that today, is the idea of opportunity cost. The idea of opportunity cost is simply you had some alternative to a decision that you could have made, and the cost of your decision was giving up the alternative, right? So what do I mean by this? I mean, let's say that you go and you take, $10,000 and you do something with it, right? You buy some, nice something, right? With $10,000. $10,000 is a lot of money, right? And I'm about to show you exactly how much money that $10,000 turns out to be, because you can buy whatever it is for $10,000. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's an ATV. Maybe it's any number of motorized equipment or vehicle or whatever, right? But let's say you buy something for $10,000. That $10,000 has an opportunity cost associated with it, right? Because you could have not. Let's say it's something that's elective, right? Not a car that you're going to drive every day, but just something that you just wanted, right? So you buy that thing for $10,000. That could have been $10,000 that you did something else with, either consumed elsewhere, or you could have bought something, that you really wanted otherwise, something else that cost $10,000, or you could have invested that money over a long period of time, right? So let's say I today at 26 years old bought something for $10,000. I could have invested that money for the next, let's say, 34 years until I was 60, right? I could have invested that $10,000. And what would I have ended up with? Well, let's say I made an 8% rate of return on that money for the next 34 years. That's $136,901.34, right? So the opportunity cost, one of the opportunity costs, right, that's assuming that this investment is the greatest alternative. The opportunity cost of making the decision to buy whatever it was for $10,000 was not having $136,901.34 in 34 years, right? That is the cost of doing that. And it's an indirect cost nonetheless, but it is a cost. Now, sometimes we decide, hey, we are going to purchase something today, right? Let's say, again, I'll just keep the $10,000 idea. I know this is something big, but you can say, hey, maybe not $10,000, maybe 100, maybe 1,000, whatever, right? So instead of, saying, okay, we buy something today and we could have invested that money, maybe instead you went into debt for something today, right? You went into debt for something that costs $10,000, okay? And so what you did is you decided that it was, more of a priority in your life to have whatever that thing was before you could afford it than saving up and affording it in the future, right? So you go into debt for it, because what is debt doing? Debt is delaying payment on something that you are going to have today, right? Because if you go out and you take out a car loan, what are you ultimately doing? Ultimately, with a car loan, you're getting a car today, but you're not paying for that entire car today. You're paying that car off over time plus interest, right? So we also do that. Now, the reason that we may do both of these things, consume things that we do not need at the time, and buy things using debt, is because we do not believe that delayed gratification is as valuable as it actually is, right? We believe that having whatever that thing is today is going to be more valuable for us. Now, don't get me wrong about a couple things. Look, there are things in our lives that we can have that are nice and that are expensive. And if you save the money up for it, I'm not saying you should always invest your money and don't buy the thing that you want. Buy the thing that you want if you have the money, you saved it up, you've done things the right way, right? But there are, at least in my mind, right, there are progressions to how you can spend money and when you should and shouldn't be spending money on wants versus needs, right? So let's just think about this for a moment. If I'm looking at the financial action plan and I say, where in the financial action plan is it good for somebody to buy something relatively expensive, like $10,000 is expensive, right? To buy something expensive as a want, right? Not as a need, as a want. Well, I would say that once you have gone through the first step, which is budgeting, the second step, small emergency fund, third step, getting the match on your 401k. You can get all these steps in other episodes on the financial action plan, but I'm just kind of rolling through them here for those of you who know them and understand them. If you don't, you can go find those other episodes, right? So third part, getting the match on your employer-sponsored retirement account. Fourth part, getting out of consumer debt. Fifth part, having the fully funded emergency fund of 4 to 6 months of household expenses, right? I'd say once you get through those, then if you can save up the money to buy whatever you want, then by all means, that can be an option for you. For sure, buy whatever you want. Now, obviously, is there that indirect thing of being able to invest that money for the future? Sure, right? And then I tell you, once you're out of debt, don't go back into debt for anything else, right? So you can make the decision to buy something with cash, and I'm not going to be mad at you. I'm not mad at you for buying the things that you want to buy. I'm not saying that shouldn't be the case. I'm saying that we should not finance them, and we should understand that money has a future value, right? There is a time value associated with money. And if we just get so caught up in this idea of consumption, right? This idea of buying the things that we want instead of taking care of our future needs, then there can be big problems, right? This is one of the reasons that a lot of people end up retiring without any retirement, right? They live on Social Security and whatever else, and it's not much at all. So they end up with just barely enough to cover their basic needs, not any needs that may be a little more on the want side or whatever. And they definitely can't cover a vast amount of wants simply because they did nothing but consume. And that's not what I want for you guys. I want you guys to learn this idea of delayed gratification. And again, delayed gratification looks like a lot of things. It's not always just a lump sum purchase of a want, right? And it's not just going into debt, right? Which debt is a huge, let me just camp out here for just a second. Debt is a huge part of this idea of delayed gratification because every time you are taking out debt, you are choosing gratification today. You're choosing not to delay gratification. You're choosing not to wait to get something that you want in the future, right? So that's what debt is doing. Debt is doing nothing but deferring payment on something that you're saying, I have to have it now. I have to have it today, right? And again, I'm not vilifying any of you. I'm not trying to be harsh on any of you that do have debt or have done this, right? Many people have done it, and I'm not saying that, some people haven't had good reason to go into debt, although there are very few. But what I am saying is that every single time you go into debt, you are doing the exact opposite of delaying gratification, right? You are purchasing something. You are getting something that you want today before actually having the money to pay for it in full. And this is a problem because the problem with not delaying gratification, right? The problem with getting things today is that you missed out, right? You missed out on the opportunity to do other things with your money. You missed out on the opportunity to save. You missed out on the opportunity to invest. And that opportunity, I'm not saying it never makes itself known again. I'm just saying any day that you did not invest your money, any week, any month, any year that you did not invest your money, then the time value of money is working against you most of the time, right? Being able to grow your money is working in the opposite direction most of the time. And especially if you're in debt. If you're in debt, then you aren't just missing out on the ability to do other things with your money. You are also paying more than the price that you would have paid if you were just saved up and paid for whatever it is, right? So delaying gratification is just a huge thing. And staying out of debt is a big part of it. Staying out of debt is delaying gratification because no doubt in my mind, I'd love a $75,000, sweet, awesome truck. I would love a brand new truck. It'd be awesome, right? No doubt about it. But $75,000 is hard to come up with, right? It's hard to come up with $75,000 cash. And it's hard to say I spent $75,000 on a vehicle. So not only via a mental exercise is it difficult to justify, it's just difficult to do, period. And so a lot of people say, hey, that's a sweet truck. What am I going to go do? I'm going to go finance that truck. I'm going to go buy that truck using debt. And they do so. And then what happens, right? This is the especially important part of all this and why delaying gratification is so important. Because they go and buy this truck, and instead of it being this one-time big hit, being able to pay for what they want to in cash, now every single month you have to take some of your income and put it towards this truck. And let me just tell you, if it's a big, nice, crazy $75,000 truck, that becomes a lot of your income. So let's just say it's not $75,000. Let's say it's a $50,000 truck, right? And let's say you got a 4% interest rate on this $50,000 truck, and let's say it's over 6 years, right? So you'll see $50,000, right? 6 years. You end up with a $782.26 payment, right, on that truck. First of all, you could be investing that $782.26. You could be buying things that you want in cash with that $782.26. But what do I tell you guys all the time? I say invest 15% of your household income. Well, if you take $782.26, that is 15% of $5,215 a month, which is the household income for a lot of people, right? That turns into $62,580 annually, which is near the median American household income, right? So the median American who's, financing this $50,000 vehicle, which happens all the time, by the way. You may think that sounds dramatic. It happens daily, right? They could be, doing what I say in the financial action plan, growing money for their future. But you see how difficult it becomes to put money away for your future when you are in debt, when you are not delaying gratification, when you are getting something today and not putting it off, right? Not putting it off until you can afford to pay for it in cash, right? So this is a very, very big deal. And it happens on scales much larger than this, right? Think about houses that people can't afford and that take up too much of their income. Think about just any number of things, right? Think about going shopping, right? Some people have this retail therapy thing, right? Where they go and they just tear up credit cards, right? They just max out their credit cards and then you ultimately have to pay on those. And that's a big, big deal. You have people with tons of student loans, right? Because they feel like they had to go to school immediately and there was no other way that they could have paid for them, which is one of the biggest lies that exists in America today. So I think that us choosing, right, because it is a choice, right, to take on gratification today instead of delaying it for our future is one of the biggest things that holds us back from being financially successful, right? And all it takes is a couple of foundational things to get all this on the right track, right? All this takes is you having a budget, staying out of debt, having some emergency savings. That way you don't go back into debt if something bad were to happen, right? And just generally being on top of tracking your expenses and knowing that, hey, we are only going to pay for things in cash, right? We are only going to pay for things that we can afford, because if we do not, if we try to step into this place where we buy things that we cannot afford to impress people that we don't even like, right? Then we're not going to be happy. We're not going to be fulfilled by that thing. Because trust me, these things that we go into debt for, we feel like they're going to fulfill us. You go into student loan debt even, right? And you say, oh, well, that's the only way that I'm going to be able to get a degree to get a job. Well, talk to all the people who have degrees who can't get jobs, right? And then talk to all the people who have no degree, but have a trade or something else and they make plenty of money, right? Talk to those people and maybe you'll think a little different, right? Or think about, a vehicle, right? Financing a vehicle. We feel like we need this thing or whatever, and we talk ourselves into bigger and bigger vehicles, and needing all this space, needing all this room because you have kids or whatever. You don't need it, you want it, right? Again, going back to needs and wants. You don't need it, you want it. And so you want to move yourself into this place where, this status symbol, your vehicle, is nicer than it should be just because, you feel that you can justify it with the fact that you have more kids or, your car's getting a little older or whatever. You hear people all the time say, oh, the cost of maintaining it is just too high. Is it as high as a $782 a month car payment? I think not. Right? In most cases, I'm not saying ever, I'm just saying in most cases, it is not, right? So we need to be cognizant of this, and we all do this, right? We all do this, whether it's very small or very large, we justify things because we're like, hey, I want it now. And again, I want to be very clear, very, very clear. If you want a $50,000, $70,000, whatever truck or vehicle, right? If you can pay for it in cash, do it, right? And I tell you all the time, I don't think your vehicle should be $50,000 or $75,000 if you have, a $20,000 net worth. I don't think that that's necessary. X vehicle, I think that you have a $20,000 net worth. I don't think that's necessary, right? I think you should have nicer vehicles as your net worth grows and as you have the amount of money that is commensurate with those vehicles. But I mean, just think about things along those lines. If you want to buy nice things, then save up the money to do it. Like, let's not talk about the huge vehicles or anything, but let's talk about, if you want to go and spend, I know I'm a, guy from the South. I like guns, right? If you want to go buy $1,000 gun, if you have the money to do it, who's to argue with you, right? But if you're deeply in debt, right? This is only money that you could have been using to get yourself financially forward. Instead, you're buying something that you want and moving backwards even more, right? This is money that you could have invested. This is money that you could have done a lot of different things with, but you chose to do what you want. And I want you to know that it's okay to do what you want as long as one, you know what you could have done with that money, and two, you're doing the correct things with your money already. Because I said, yeah, I want you to get through those first 5 parts of the financial action plan before you really start doing these big want purchases, right? But you get to that 6th part of the financial action plan, the 7th part, you should still be doing those things and be doing the wants, right? If you want to go on a big vacation, by all means, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't invest at least 15% of your household income. You should be doing that. That doesn't mean you shouldn't be paying down your house faster. You should be doing that, right? But what you should not be doing, right, is in lieu of investing, in lieu of paying your house down faster, go on vacation, right? You shouldn't be taking that money and putting it in that place. You should be saying, hey, I don't have debt. Hey, I do have an emergency fund. I have extra money I can save up and pay for this vacation, on top of the fact that I'm doing these other foundational financial things that are moving me forward at the same time, right? Look, I am not just the hater of fun. I love having fun. I love doing things that are fun. I love going on vacation. I love buying nice things. I love all of that, right? But I just wanted to let you know that when you come home from vacation and you see that credit card bill, right, you're going to wish that you would have saved up for it, right? When you get that car payment, right, you get that bill online or in the mail or whatever, and you have to look at it and you go, man, I didn't need that much of a vehicle, but now you kind of feel stuck. Now you feel like, oh, I already have it, all these types of things, and you make all these more justifications in your mind. You think that school's super necessary until you go and you get a degree that costs you $75,000, in student loan debt, and now you're sitting with a degree that you can't find a job for, and you're like, I still got to pay this $75,000 of student loan debt, right? All these things put you in situations that are not good financially, and they all stem back to the fact that you did not delay gratification, right? You did not decide to put off today for tomorrow, right? And I'm not saying that we have to put off everything today. I'm just saying you need to have a process. You need to have a plan. You need to know where you're going, right? And ultimately, if you put away the proper amount, you sacrifice the proper amount, you do the proper amount less today, right, in order to get more tomorrow, then you can be in really good shape. Because that's the thing. The sacrifice has to be the proper size. It has to be the proper sacrifice to get you to where you want to be. Because if you're just making tiny sacrifices, then you're not likely to hit your long-term financial goals. And if you're making huge sacrifices, that may be even unnecessary sacrifices, then you may have a lot later on, but you're going to force yourself into poverty today. Because some people, they take this whole saving and investing thing to a whole different dimension where they're like, hey, every single dollar I have above my needs, I'm pouring it in there. And that's not necessary either, right? That can put you in a great situation over the long term, but, good luck, with your family. Good luck with, your husband or wife and their wants in the long term, right? Because people can put off wants, but it's just difficult for them to put off wants for a long period of time. They can put off wants, but we all have this anxiousness, this hope that one day we can get to this point where we can have some things that we want to have, right? Not have to defer and delay gratification forever, right? We want to delay gratification for some time and then maybe do it less than we were at that particular point. So really, when it comes down to it, delaying gratification has to fit into this idea of financial balance. And especially at the beginning of the show, when I was first starting this, I talked a lot about financial balance, and it's still something that I totally believe in, right? It's just, you do a lot of episodes that you don't talk about it. But financial balance, and what do I mean? I mean, the 3 legs of the financial stool are what? Are giving, saving and investing, and then spending, right? We should be doing all of those at all times, but in differing proportions based on where we are financially, right? And they will keep us in financial balance, okay? And delaying gratification is not just the saving and investing, right? But it is also the giving, right? Because if you are giving, you're saying, hey, I don't need that money, first off, right? Second off, I think that money is best used in that way. And that's money that you are not going to see again, right? But it may make you feel good. It may, end up multiplying what you ultimately have, so you can give more, and all these different types of things. So I think that, being able to maintain financial balance is very, very key in delaying gratification, because, some people can delay a lot more than others. And then some people can't, right? And some people don't have as much, residual income, leftover income in order to delay a ton. But I just want to leave you with this, just because I think it is vital, talking about delaying gratification and finance and, living on less than you make and all this type of thing, right? If you're going to delay gratification, one of the biggest ways you're going to do it is via investing and saving, right? And I want you to know the difference that it makes in doing this, right? The difference it makes in saving and investing for your future. So let's go back to that household that made $62,580.73 a year, and 15% of their household income monthly would have gone to that $782.26, car payment, truck payment, whatever. Let's say that they didn't have that truck or that car or whatever, and they had that extra $782.26, and they invested it like I want them to do, right? That amount every single month. And let's say they made 10% annually, and let's say they did that for the next 30 years, right? And they put away that $782. They started with nothing. After 30 years, that's $1.768 million. Tell me that delaying gratification is not worth it, right? Tell me that in some way, shape, or form, putting off today for tomorrow is ultimately useful, right? Because it is useful to put off what you could purchase today, what you could go into debt for today, in order to get what the long-term payout is, right? If you want to be successful in your finances, you have to understand that sacrifice must be made, okay? I would love to spend every dollar that I make. I tell my wife all the time, we could live in a nicer place. We could drive nicer cars, right? We could go on more expensive vacations, right? But then at the end of the day, we would look up when we're 60, 65 years old and go, what did we do, right? Where did everything go? And if you are like me and you've seen older people just struggle and, barely get by on Social Security, you never want to be in that place. You want to have done enough in order to get yourself into that place of long-term financial stability, and, delaying gratification is the only way you're getting there. Right? It's the only way that you're going to be able to do so. And so the reason I really wanted to talk about this today is because as we are coming upon a new year, right? We're coming upon this new year. People set financial, goals. People have these New Year's resolutions, all these types of things. I think we need to think a lot about how we, delay gratification, whether or not we delay gratification. And ultimately, if you're going to start a new habit, have new goals, then maybe you should reevaluate your financial goals in this way. Maybe you should reevaluate how much you are spending on just wants and not your future needs, because that's the truth. The truth is that your income today is not just taking care of today's needs. It should be also working to take care of your future needs and your future wants, right? It's especially taking care of your future wants, because without residual income today, then you're not going to have money saved up to take care of your future wants, right? But it's also going to take care of many future needs that are going to need to be in place if you want to live a comfortable life later on. So really reevaluate that in your own life. Understand whether you're doing enough. And if you are, that's great and that's fine. Buy the things you want, do the things you want. I'm happy for you, right? If you're following the financial action plan or not, I'm happy for you. But just understand that your ability to build wealth over the long term is directly correlated to your ability to sacrifice and delay gratification, okay? But that doesn't mean delay gratification so long or so much that it makes you weary, or that it makes your spouse weary, or that it creates money fights and money problems. You just have to be flexible. You have to be thoughtful. And ultimately, you have to not just be a penny pincher, but be somebody who is just financially responsible and financially thoughtful and has goals and thinks the goals out and knows how to put money away for how long, at what rate of return, what's that going to turn into. Run some scenarios for yourself and figure out what delayed gratification looks like for you. And if you're somebody who's deeply in debt, this may be a place that you need to start. And it really starts inside of you, right? It starts inside of you in understanding that you don't need every single dollar that you bring in. You don't have to spend everything that you make. You don't have to live paycheck to paycheck. You can break that dangerous cycle in your own life and become financially free and financially successful over the long term. So thanks for watching this video. If you could, go down below, hit the big red subscribe button, like this video, leave me any feedback in the comments down below, and I'll be sure to respond to anything you leave down there. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify podcasts, be sure to subscribe and leave me a review on either one of those platforms. Follow me on social media at MNO with Dylan. And that's really good supplemental materials to all the things I'm putting out in these long form episodes on YouTube and the podcast every single day. And then if you need somebody to help you to build a financial plan and keep you accountable to that plan over the long term, then I can do that. Just DM me on any of the major social media sites and tell me that you are interested in financial coaching sessions. And you and I can begin working together, pushing towards your long-term financial goals and ultimately pushing you on towards long-term financial freedom, which is what I hope for every single individual who's watching or listening to the show on a day-to-day basis. So tune in tomorrow as I continue talking about personal finance topics that I think could be useful for you in your long-term financial journey. So thanks for tuning into this episode of Money's No Object. I'm your host, Dylan Howell. God bless.